Good morning and welcome to the Lakers Lowdown. I'm Anthony Irwin. Today on the show, I'm Anthony Irwin of Lakers Daily. Speaking of Lakers Daily, a few hours from now, I would imagine, I will have my second piece for them dropping. This one is going to be on Rob Pelinka and how, while we know Darvin Ham is probably going to feel the accountability for the way that this season has gone, should the Lakers fall short this year, I make the argument that he should not be alone in facing that accountability. And that I frankly think that Rob Pelinka shouldn't hire their next head coach. So keep an eye out for that for LakersDaily.com. In the meantime, today on the show, we're going to be talking about the loss that the Lakers took on Saturday night and the entire debacle that was the last couple minutes of that game. We're going to talk about the situation that the Lakers find themselves in. It is likely that they are now going to be heading towards the 10 seed and will probably have to win 2 road games to merely earn themselves the opportunity to play against the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. And then finally, to kind of raise the spirits here a little bit, I'm going to present a hypothetical that could be really funny, and that's always kind of fun for us. But as the Clippers keep sliding and Tyronn Lue keeps on operating at the helm of that Clippers franchise that does not appear to be going anywhere any particularly quickly, you can't help but wonder, maybe, just maybe, could the Lakers rectify a wrongdoing from a few years ago? So let's get to all of that here in a second. All right, so let's start with the game that was played Saturday night. And by the way, the Lakers are going to be in action again tonight. So for those of you who like watching the games or would like to watch the games with me and Raj and the rest of the guys there on All Access Lakers, you can actually do so with me tonight. That is playback.tv/All Access Lakers. But Saturday night, prime time, your 2 marquee franchises, the 2 guaranteed draws in ways that does not occur with any other teams in the NBA right now. They played a marquee Saturday night game in front of millions watching on TV, and the league absolutely showed its ass. You had review after review after review. You had shot clock issue after shot clock issue after shot clock issue. Eventually, Lawrence Tanner had to actually announce how many seconds were left in the shot clock because they couldn't get those things to work. And a game that was moving along. At one point, it was a 4-point game. LeBron had just made a 3-pointer, and it was 124 to 120 in the Warriors' favor with a couple minutes to go. And then the reviews started, right? You had a play reviewed where Draymond Green hopped on his left foot. They didn't even look at the hop. They wanted to see if his foot touched the line. That was like the more questionable call that they could have challenged and overturned. They wind up doing that. However, that challenge winds up costing the Lakers in 3 points, because while they were looking at the Draymond Green situation, they went back even further and took away 3 points when it was found that LeBron James had a heel potentially on the sideline. Like, I know we saw the shadow, but there was that play earlier this year where his foot, appeared to be behind the line on that 3-pointer, and then they went and looked at it and decided that no, that was actually a 2-pointer. And I thought, like, this angle was just as clear as the other one, which is to say it wasn't very clear. And the Lakers wind up losing 3 points there. For the rest of the game, it was like play happens, foul happens, review happens, shot clock thing goes wrong. And the last couple minutes of an otherwise thrilling basketball game just gets minimized and devolves into probably the most boring ending to the game that was like possible there. You had superstars being shown on TV, all of whom looked incredibly bored. You had announcers wondering what the hell was going on. You had LeBron saying he's too old for all of these reviews. I understand the necessity or the desire to get calls right. I totally get it. But if reviews are going to be used as such a crutch in the last 2 minutes, where referees basically can just like skip out on making calls, knowing that they are going to go to the review center anyway, then one, um, like you have to get every call absolutely right and objectively correct. And I didn't think that they did that in that game. The best example of them not getting something objectively correct, there was a possession that the Warriors had in which a 24-second clock should have been called. For some reason, the shot clock resets. They never go back and look at that. And if you're kind of arbitrarily deciding, well, I'm going to go back and look at this, but I'm not going to go back and look at that, and I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to look at it with the finest of fine-tuned tooth combs that I can possibly find. And then with other things, just kind of eyeball it, right? Like for some reason, even though the technology is very easily there to see whether or not a goaltending occurs, they always seem to just go like, and when like actual points are on the line, right? Like if it's a goaltend that gets called incorrectly, that's 2 points to the wrong team. And if a goaltend occurs that doesn't get called, and for some reason they always do this on continuation calls in the NBA, if a goaltend occurs it shouldn't occur, that's taking 2 points away from a team. And it takes all of 5 seconds to go up there, put some lines on the backboard, on the sides of the backboard, and then it takes 3 seconds to send it to, I think they go to Secaucus or something like that, New Jersey. And like you could just send it. Hey, was that a goaltend? Yes. Cool. That's 2 points or 3 points or whatever. No, it's almost always 2 points. Was it a goaltend? No. Cool. Let's take those 2 points off of the board that we rewarded by that goaltending call. For some reason, they decide that they're going to eyeball that, but with out of bounds and even the charge and block calls, with charge and block calls, they look to make absolutely sure that the heel at no point touches that baseline or that little arc that's inside the half circle that's in the key there. They look at that like crazy. They spend forever making sure, all right, that heel stays up, that is above, all right, that is definitely a charge. And if it like slides down and it does touch, that is a block, right? But with like the 3-point line and the sideline and the baseline, it's like, well, it's a shadow, but is it really the shoe? I don't know. We're just gonna call it, I guess. And sometimes these reviews, like I think at one point the stat that ESPN, a partner, a league partner, put out there was that it had taken 15 minutes to get through 18 seconds of gameplay. I was getting texts left and right because a whole bunch of people were watching that game. I was getting texts from friends who, I haven't even heard from in a few months. And they're like, hey man, you're like, you do this. You have a decent voice, right? Can you just tweet that this product sucks? And I'm like, I already did, because it does. Like it's a shit product. On the regular season in the NBA is just bad. It's not a good product. Any given night, you don't know what superstar is going to play. Earlier today, the Milwaukee Bucks played, and then 40 minutes before the game, Giannis is ruled out with hamstring soreness, not a hamstring pull, not any, like, it's just like he's a little sore. And it's like, oh, sorry, everybody. I know you probably paid a bunch of money to see this guy play. Whoops. And that, so you never know when that's going to happen. The NBA said it was going to curb that and hoped to do that with the 65 game minimum. But all people have done since the 65 game minimum was implemented was whine about the 65 game minimum, because God forbid we tell these zillionaires to go out and play a sport for 48 minutes. And then, as if all of that isn't enough, you have these review situations and you have challenges and you have way too many timeouts. And it's just, it's become this litigious slop that is not good to watch. It's not fun to watch. You have some of the most awe-inspiring athletes on planet Earth sitting around watching some freaking toe-looking person decide whether or not they got a call wrong. What? None of this makes any sense. And if I was to, like, I try to explain it to, like, Jen was like watching that game with me. We came home. There was like a St. Patty's Day thing on Saturday night at this like really cool little venue that we live down the street from. So we took the kids there and they got to watch like a live band and we were hanging out and stuff. And then we got back and I'm like, oh, cool. Like the game is just kind of getting started here. Let's tune in. And Jen was into it all game. I tweeted less throughout that game because I wanted to make sure that I got to like watch it with Jen in ways that we used to back when we were kids, before I started doing all of this. And she was way into it, way into it, way into it. By the time that we got to the fourth quarter, she literally fell asleep. A game that she was otherwise really, really, really into. Like she was way into this game. She was rooting. We had to move outside because she had had a couple glasses of wine and I had had a glass of wine myself. I was technically on the clock, so I kind of watched myself. But we moved outside because we were both rooting and cheering in the same way that we used to back when we were like young and vibrant and didn't have kids. And I am not bitter in any way. You are not hearing that correctly. But no, like we were having a blast watching this game. And then like, you go through a half hour of everybody standing around for one reason or another. And Jen misses the end of the game. Like everybody, frankly, missed the end of the game and the way that it should have played out because nobody had any idea how to play a game that was getting stopped every 3 seconds for technical difficulties or official difficulties. And it's just like the Lakers lost. Final in that game was 128-121. It basically solidified that the Lakers are probably going to be the 10 seed. And those frustrations aside, and I'm sure that my feelings towards this game are probably compounded by the situation. But at the end of it, I am an NBA fan. Those of you who have been listening to this show or any of my shows over the year know that I am a basketball nut. I love the sport of basketball. I love it so much that I am known for a Euro stumble. Just like I tried that Euro stumble at an age that I had no business trying that Euro stumble because I just love the sport. We have this little Tykes basket in our living room that I shoot on way more than either of my two kids, though Miles is giving me a run for my money. He really loves scoring and going, woo! It's the cutest thing ever. But I love the sport. I watch. It doesn't matter who's on, right? I watch the NBA in the same way that I watch the NFL or the people watch the NFL. I love this game, and it makes it that much more heartbreaking to see it devolve into this, whatever the hell those last 2 minutes were. And I hope that being one of the most watched games of the season, I hope that gets people to wake up and realize that their officiating itself is broken because the game is too litigious and you have too many people taking advantage of every single aspect of the rule book. You have the review system, which is also broken. You have a shot clock right there. I mean, in that case, in that game, you didn't necessarily have it because it kept resetting and or not resetting when it shouldn't. So I guess you have the excuse that you can't do it there. But normally you have a 24-second shot clock, and normally, it is working and operating just fine. So if you go to review, you say all right, put 24 seconds on the clock. This is not going to take longer than 24 seconds. And if you can't figure it out in 24 seconds, then it isn't enough to overturn or change whatever call was made on the floor. Cool. That's the understanding. We can all move on with our lives and get back to the really exciting sport that we are all here to watch in the first place. I don't watch sports to figure out, is this a catch? Is this a charge? Is this a travel? Is this a foul? Is it an offensive? Is it flagrant? Is it a take foul? Is it a clear path? For whatever reason in sports, in all sports, we decided the referees are going to hold unearthly power over all of these games and like just keep on giving them more power. It's like, can we let the guys call their own fouls? Can we get back to this being an actual fun sport to watch? No is the answer, according to Adam Silver. So the Lakers got through that really grueling stretch, right? Remember, we looked back on it right as they were getting set to embark on it, where they played, 10 games basically in their previous 10 games. They played like 8 games against playoff teams. They finished that stretch. We'll say it started against San Antonio 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 4, or something like that. 6 and 5. They basically survived that stretch and went 500. That was about as much as I could have realistically asked for. The annoying thing is the way that they got there, right? You beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, which for a team for whatever reason, and we've gone over the reasons actually that the Lakers kind of own them this year, but that is a really good team that you beat pretty handily again. You beat the Clippers, you beat Milwaukee, you beat Minnesota, though Minnesota is shorthanded. That should be pointed out. And you think, okay, cool, like you took care of business in the other ones, right? Not really, right? You lose to Sacramento twice. You lose to Golden State twice. You lose to Phoenix. These are all teams that you're trying to leapfrog in the standings, and the Lakers weren't able to take care of business. And that's why, the schedule does lighten up here moving forward, where tonight, by the time you guys are listening or watching this, the Lakers are going to be playing the Atlanta Hawks. Then they play Philly, and they play Indiana. They play the Bucks again, which is one of their tougher games. Then you play Memphis and Indiana and Brooklyn and Toronto and Washington. And that's a stretch where you would hope that the Lakers should be able to rip off a whole bunch of wins here and gain some ground and or do some leapfrogging in the standings. The problem is not a single person on earth is confident that they are going to do that. Not one. Maybe some of you guys are because you're homers or you haven't been paying close attention to this team this year. But the Lakers have been actually okay against, their elite caliber of competition this year. And then they have been outright bad against mid-tier competition. The Atlantas of the world, Philly right now, as they're currently constructed. Indiana comes to mind here. They play them twice. They've already lost to Brooklyn, right? So this is a team that when they care or respect their opponent, they play pretty well and they compete pretty well. The problem is they just don't respect enough of their opponents, and that's why they currently sit in the 10 spot and will probably be in the 10 spot at the end of the season. And, I could sit here. I would love to be able to sit here and say, here we go, baby. You got through the tough stretch. It's time to do your business or take care of business and do your work against some of the worst, lesser talented teams that you could play here at this portion of the year. But all that means is that the Lakers are going to probably play with their food. They're probably going to lose one or two of these games that they have no business losing. And they will once again be sitting there in the 10 spot. They don't own tiebreakers over, I believe, any of their competition in the play-ins. And it's just they haven't done enough work to get themselves out of the situation. So in all likelihood, the Lakers are probably going to have to win 2 road games. The Lakers are pretty far and away the worst road team in the Western Conference. By the way, during this upcoming stretch, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 road games, and only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 home games, 6 or 7 home games. And so yeah, it's just this is a team that just has been very inconsistent this year, doesn't take the sport, doesn't hold the amounts of respect for the sport that they should, and now are likely heading towards a play-in tournament where you have to win 2 road games to play the best team in the conference or the best record in the conference. And maybe you get lucky. Maybe it's OKC, or maybe you get lucky and it's Minnesota without Karl Anthony Towns. Feels pretty unlikely because they don't have Karl Anthony Towns and they aren't going to keep winning in the way that they need to. Or Denver takes care of business, and your reward for winning 2 road games to get into the playoffs is to just get your ass kicked by the Denver Nuggets in the first round. And, I said it a couple weeks ago, right? Where I asked you guys, what would you rather have happen here? Would you rather the Lakers, miraculously compete and save Darvin Ham's job? And maybe even Rob isn't going anywhere, but maybe you save Darvin Ham's job by doing enough winning? Or do you just accept this thing for what it is and ride out this season and then hope that the Lakers make necessary changes in this upcoming offseason? It seems like you're probably going to get the latter. And maybe the Lakers have done enough winning for this to be a little bit of fun here, but I doubt it. This hasn't been a very fun season. This probably is going to be a bit of a trudge to get through the final, 5th or so or 6th or so of the regular season before you get into the play-in. The play-in you're going to have to sweat through, and then you're going to be a heavy underdog in whatever series that you play in, if you get through the play-in tournament. And it's just, it feels like a really big wasted opportunity here. And that's why for Lakers Daily, I wrote the piece that I wrote today where it's like, maybe we shouldn't just fire the head coach again this time. They've done that, right? Fired Walton, fired Vogel. If they fire Ham again, maybe it's not just a head coach problem, right? And shit, like while we're here, maybe it's not just a Rob Pelinka problem, because if we're this sure, and I'm pretty sure that Rob Pelinka isn't going to be fired after this year. If you're this sure that he isn't going to be fired, and it has nothing to do with what is actually best for the team, and has more to do with the friendship that he has with Jeannie Buss, then those problems, that rot sits pretty deep, right? So that's what I wrote for Lakers Daily, and when it drops, obviously you'll hear all about it. There's some parts of that piece that I think Twitter isn't going to respond very well to. Sorry, everybody. I'm not sorry. All right. The last thing I want to talk about here and spend a little bit of time here just to kind of lift our spirits a little bit. It's a Monday. The Lakers have a light week ahead. They have a game tonight, and then they don't play again, I believe, until Friday. So the Lakers, obviously, I think, are probably going to have a really pointed decision on their hands with Darvin Ham. Fortunately for them, Darvin is a rookie head coach and doesn't make a ton of money. So the type of dead money that you might have on your books might not be that painful, right, Jeannie? If you're listening, please. But anyway, the Clippers, though, so there was a stumble when they first brought James Harden in, and then he kind of got his legs underneath him and started playing really good basketball. The Clippers looked great and were anointed Western Conference finalists again and all that good stuff, because nobody talks about the Clippers particularly intelligently. Lot of friendships in media with some of the people doing stuff for the Clippers, and I think that reflects in the analysis of that team. But you have a Clippers team now that Kawhi Leonard left the arena the other night altogether because of a back spasm. You have James Harden play really poorly last night. By the time you guys are listening to this, as the Atlanta Hawks beat the crap out of the Clippers in LA. The Hawks beat the Clippers 110-93 last night. The Clippers are playing like below 500 basketball now for like the last 10 or 15 games. And if they keep on sliding, I think Tyronn Lue's deal might have another year left on it after this one. And, you could see Steve Ballmer, basically an owner who is obviously very passionate, and he's a lot of the things that I wish the Lakers ownership was, i.e. Rich. But he also, I don't think, is a particularly patient person. So maybe, just maybe, after yet another year where the Clippers fall short of preseason expectations, he decides that finally it is time to part ways with Tyronn Lue. And you remember how this coaching carousel that the Lakers have been on started was by not hiring Tyronn Lue in the first place when he was very much available. LeBron was pushing for him. You got that birthday cake. And when he thought that it was going to happen, then the Lakers lowballed him. Then they asked him to employ Jason Kidd. He did not want to do that. And obviously the Lakers wound up hiring Frank Vogel, who was pretty far and away their like fourth favorite choice in that offseason. Um, yeah, because you had Lue, you had Williams, who the Lakers also liked. He went to Phoenix. You had Kidd, who the Lakers really liked. But then, when I wrote at Silver Screen and Roll about Kidd's criminal history and the questions that got asked about that kind of cooled the temperatures on those talks. They only made Kidd the highest paid assistant coach in the league. And then they hired Frank Vogel, but never really trusted that was like the guy for them. Unfortunately for them, they won a championship, and you would think normally like you win a championship and you get a nice little extension for it. Vogel got a single extra year on his contract because of that championship, and infamously fired minutes after that final game of the season. And then you bring in Darvin Ham, and that obviously has gone the way that it has. And I just don't think he's a good head coach. And, now if this season continues to go poorly, the Lakers are probably going to be in search of another head coach. And maybe, just maybe, Ty Lue will be available. And this whole thing can come full circle where the Lakers could go out and hire the guy that LeBron respects and the guy who has championship pedigree and all of those things. You could, at least in theory, make the Clippers worse by hiring away the head coach that they maybe shouldn't have fired if they do fire him. And you can kind of move forward that way. That, I think, is probably the best case scenario to this season, frankly, right? You get LeBron back fully engaged for next season. You see what tweaks you can make to the roster in the offseason. You get rid of, for my money, one of the worst head coaches, if not the worst head coach in Lakers history. And you can kind of move forward as a slightly less inept organization. Will all of it happen? A lot of ifs need to happen in order for all of this to play out. But it is something to hope for, right? And given the way that this season has gone, that little hope, the little hopium that we could possibly kind of latch onto here as this season comes to a close, there's worse things to hope for, right? Maybe. Ballmer, fire him, please. Genie, go get you. All right, that is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lowdown. Thank you, everybody. I apologize for not doing a happy hour last week. Caught another little chest cold here that you can maybe hear a little bit of my voice here tonight, right on cue. And hopefully I'm taking all the right meds to be able to handle that here moving forward, and not miss any shows here moving forward. But yeah, please do keep an eye out for my latest For Lakers Daily. I'm sure that they're just like it happened last time. There are going to be some screen grabs that go viral. So we'll see how all of that goes over. So until then, and until the next time you guys hear from me, that is probably going to be in a few hours when the Lakers play the Hawks tonight. I'm Anthony Irwin saying have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's, and I'll talk to you tonight.